She stood alone on their bedroom balcony, champagne untouched, watching Charleston's elite mingle through the French doors behind her. 9 months since he'd touched her. 9 months since Daniel Whitmore, tech investor and master of their waterfront estate, had reached for his wife in the darkness. Have you ever felt invisible to the one person who should see you most clearly? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Maya watched him across the anniversary party he'd insisted on throwing. Phone in hand, back turned to her, charming investors who didn't notice his smile never reached his eyes. To everyone inside, they were perfection. The self-made millionaire and his beautiful wife, living their dream in a mansion that felt increasingly like a museum where Maya was the most expensive exhibit. The night air clung to her skin, humid and heavy like a promise about to break. Below, caterers arranged silver trays while string lights transformed their manicured garden into a fantasy. A fantasy where her husband still saw her. If someone had asked Maya that morning what loneliness sounded like, she would have said, expensive shoes echoing through 12,000 square feet with no one to hear them. Have you ever felt invisible to the one person who should see you most clearly? What would you sacrifice for someone to truly look at you again? Maya closed her eyes, the memory rising unbidden. 9 months ago, Daniel's hands tracing paths along her skin in their master's suite, his whispers against her neck, the weight of him pressed against her in the darkness. His fingers tangled in her hair as pleasure built between them. You're everything, he murmured then, his breath hot against her ear. Everything. The next morning, something had changed. His eyes slid past her at breakfast. His shoulders stiffened when she touched him. By nightfall, he claimed the guest room for late work calls. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Explanations never came. She tried everything. Lingerie left on his pillow. Midnight appearances in his study. Notes tucked into his briefcase. Eventually, letters, 9 of them, each more desperate than the last, sealed with the remnants of her pride. Each disappeared from his desk, never mentioned, as if they'd dissolved into the mahogany. The sound of laughter pulled Maya back to the present. From her balcony perch, she watched Daniel charm Mrs. Cunningham, the banking heiress whose approval opened Charleston's most exclusive doors. His hand rested comfortably on the woman's elbow. The sight of his fingers making casual contact with another human while Maya starved for his touch sent heat rushing to her face. Maya, darling. Caroline Pierce's voice carried from the doorway. Everyone's asking where you've disappeared to. You can't hide at your own anniversary party. Maya turned, smile fixed perfectly in place. Caroline, Charleston old money and keeper of everyone's secrets, approached with 2 fresh champagne flutes. 15 years looks good on you both, Caroline said, handing Maya a glass. Though, her eyes narrowed slightly. Is everything all right? Daniel seems. She left the question hanging. Busy, Maya supplied smoothly. Success demands attention. Caroline's gaze traveled from Maya to Daniel and back again. Well, Charleston has noticed he's been giving his attention to everything except his gorgeous wife lately. People talk. Maya took a slow sip, the bubbles burning her throat. People always talk, Caroline, especially when they have nothing interesting happening in their own lives. Caroline laughed, not offended. Touché. But seriously, Maya, you gave up Detroit, your family, your career for this life. Don't let it become a gilded cage. She squeezed Maya's arm before drifting back inside. Below in the garden, the first guests were beginning to arrive for the main event. More investors, more Charleston society, more hours of pretending that the man who couldn't look at his wife wasn't slowly killing something inside her. Maya watched as Daniel finally moved toward the staircase, no doubt coming to collect her for their grand entrance. She straightened her shoulders, adjusted the emerald dress that once made him speechless, and prepared to play her role. 9 months without his touch had taught Maya what true wealth was, and she was bankrupt in all the ways that mattered. As she turned to meet him at the door, her phone vibrated with a text from her mother back in Detroit. Baby girl, remember who you were before him. That woman still exists. Maya slipped the phone into her clutch just as Daniel appeared, handsome in his tailored suit, eyes still not quite meeting hers. "Ready?" he asked, extending his arm without extending himself. She slid her hand into the crook of his elbow, feeling nothing but expensive fabric and the hollow space where intimacy used to live. "Always," she lied, descending the stairs beside him as applause rose from below. "If you've ever worn a smile while breaking inside, hit that like button. Tell me below about a time you felt invisible in your own life." The roses were dying. Maya stood in her garden 3 days after the anniversary party, gloves covered in soil, sweat beading along her hairline despite the morning shade. The prized Charleston blues, Daniel had imported them as a first anniversary gift, were withering despite her efforts. Like everything else beautiful in this house, they were fading under her care. "They need more acidic soil." The voice, deep and unfamiliar, startled her. Maya turned toward the stone fence separating their property from the neighboring estate, recently sold after old Mrs. Henderson passed. A man stood on the other side, arms resting casually on the waist-high barrier. Tall, broad-shouldered, with close-cropped hair and eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. "I'm sorry." Maya straightened, suddenly aware of her disheveled appearance. "Your roses. Charleston blues are notorious divas. They need more acidic soil than most." He gestured toward her wilting flowers. "Coffee grounds work wonders. I'm Jordan, by the way. Just moved in last week." Maya pulled off her right glove, stepping closer to accept his outstretched hand. "Maya Whitmore, welcome to the neighborhood." His hand was warm, grip firm but gentle. The simple human contact, skin against skin, sent an unexpected current through her. How long since someone had touched her without agenda or obligation? When was the last time a stranger's simple kindness reminded you what human connection feels like? Can you remember that exact moment? The famous Maya Whitmore, Jordan said, his smile genuine. "Mrs. Henderson mentioned you before she moved to her daughter's place. Said you were the only one on this street who treated the staff like people." Heat rose to Maya's cheeks. Mrs. Henderson talked too much, or exactly enough. His eyes held hers a moment too long before moving to her roses. "Want some help?" "I cultivated prize winners back in Atlanta." 20 minutes later, they were both on Maya's side of the fence, Jordan demonstrating how to properly prune the struggling plants. His movements were precise yet relaxed, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms marked with a few small scars. "Childhood adventures," he'd explained with a laugh when she asked. "So what brings you to Charleston?" Maya asked, watching him work. There was something peaceful about his presence, an ease that made her realize how tense she normally felt in her own garden. "Architecture firm downtown recruited me. I design spaces that bring people together." He glanced up. Ironic in this neighborhood, where every house is built to keep others out. Maya laughed, genuinely laughed, for the first time in months. "You're not wrong. These houses are gorgeous prisons sometimes." Jordan's eyes met hers, something flickering in their depths. Understanding, perhaps. Even the most beautiful cage is still a cage if you're not free inside it. The truth of his words stole her breath. Before she could respond, he reached for her hand, guiding it toward the rose bush. "Here, feel this stem? That's where you cut. Not too high, not too low." His fingers brushed against her wrist as he positioned her hand. The contact was innocent, instructional, and yet Maya felt her pulse jump beneath his touch. Neither of them noticed Daniel watching from a study window 3 stories above. Phone pressed to his ear, gaze locked on his wife's smiling face, turned toward stranger. "You make it look easy," Maya said, successfully pruning her first stem under Jordan's guidance. "Most things worth doing look hard until someone shows you the right way." He smiled, stepping back. "Speaking of which, are you planning to attend the Carlton Foundation Gala next weekend?" "I received an invitation, but won't know a soul." The Carlton Gala, Charleston's most prestigious charity event, held at a different estate each year. This year, the Whitmore Mansion had been selected to host. "Actually, we're hosting it," Maya said. Jordan's eyebrows rose. "Impressive. Though now, I definitely need to attend." if only to see these roses recovered by then. His smile turned playful. Save me a dance? Between potential clients and Charleston gossips, I'll need an ally. The request was innocent, friendly, yet something shifted in the garden air between them. An opening, a possibility. I'd like that, Maya heard herself say. They worked side by side until midday, conversation flowing easily. When Jordan finally headed back to his property, he paused at the fence. Thank you, Maya, for making me feel welcome. His cologne lingered on her gardening gloves, proof that someone had stood close enough to leave a trace. That night, Maya slept with the gloves beside her pillow, dreaming of hands that noticed her own. When was the last time a simple touch reminded you that you're still alive beneath your numbness? Would you chase that feeling if you knew the cost? Drop a heart if you've ever been tempted. The mahogany desk in Daniel's study gleamed under soft lamplight as Maya stood in the doorway, heart hammering. The house staff had left hours ago. Daniel was downtown at a business dinner. The room, his sanctuary, was forbidden to her without invitation, an unspoken rule established when the distance between them began. She stepped inside anyway, the plush carpet silencing her footsteps. 9 months of emotional exile had brought her here, to this moment of rebellion. The letter in her hand, her 10th, felt heavier than the previous 9. Those had been pleas, confessions, attempts to bridge whatever chasm had opened between them. This one was different, an ultimatum wrapped in goodbye. Maya placed it squarely in the center of his blotter, impossible to miss. Then her eyes caught on something unexpected, the corner of a familiar envelope peeking from beneath a leather portfolio. Her breath stopped. Fingers trembling, she lifted the portfolio. There they were, all 9 letters, still sealed, unopened, unread. Would you rather be desired without love or loved without desire? Your answer reveals what's truly missing from your life. Comment below with which you choose. The revelation crashed through her like a physical blow. 9 months of pouring her heart onto paper, her loneliness, her confusion, her desire, her pain, and he hadn't bothered to open a single one. Maya sank into Daniel's chair, the expensive leather creaking beneath her. She'd written things in those letters she'd never said aloud. Intimate confessions about how she missed his touch, detailed memories of their passionate beginnings, descriptions of lying awake at night, imagining his hands on her body, questions about what she'd done wrong, how she could fix it, if he still wanted her at all. All of it untouched, unworthy of even his curiosity. The first letter had been hopeful, written a month after he withdrew. She detailed how much she missed their physical connection, even describing a dream where they'd made love in the garden beneath summer stars. The second had been questioning, worried. By the 5th, she'd grown desperate, asking directly if he was having an affair, if he no longer found her attractive. The 8th letter had contained a revelation about a job offer from her old firm in Detroit, a lifeline back to independence she'd been considering. The 9th had asked plainly, "Do you want me to leave?" Maya gathered the letters, hands shaking with a rage that surprised her. Then she noticed Daniel's calendar open on his desktop computer. The screen showed a series of meetings with bankruptcy attorneys. The rage faltered, confusion taking its place. Daniel was meeting with bankruptcy attorneys? The man whose financial genius was legendary in tech investment circles? Her phone buzzed with a text. "Jordan, coffee grounds delivered to your back gate. Your roses will thank me. See you at the gala." Maya smiled despite herself, then froze as her eyes returned to the calendar. One appointment stood out, J. Reynolds consultation, scheduled for the morning after they'd met in the garden. Jordan Reynolds. Coincidence? Maya's stomach tightened. She minimized the calendar and was about to stand when she noticed an email notification on screen. Whitmore estate valuation. She shouldn't. She really shouldn't. She clicked. The email contained an appraisal of their home. Their perfect waterfront mansion was being valued for potential rapid liquidation. Attached documents revealed the truth. Daniel's investment firm was hemorrhaging money. His last 3 ventures had collapsed. Their household expenses had been covered by loans for months. They were broke, or soon would be. Maya leaned back, letters clutched to her chest, mind racing. The distance, the coldness. Had it been shame? Fear? Why not tell her? Because the great Daniel Whitmore couldn't admit failure. Not to his investors, not to Charleston society, and especially not to the wife who'd left her career to support his ambitions. Her phone buzzed again. Her mother. The position is still open if you want it, baby girl. Detroit misses you. Maya looked at the unopened letters in her hands, then at the computer revealing her husband's secrets, then at her mother's text offering escape. Finally, her eyes fell on the 10th letter she'd placed on the blotter, the ultimatum she'd written before discovering any of this. She picked it up, broke the seal, and read her own words. Daniel, 9 months of silence is my limit. I've tried to reach you in every way I know how. I've offered my heart, my body, my understanding, all met with your absence. This is my final letter. I've received an offer to return to my old firm in Detroit. A fresh start. I need to know if there's anything left between us worth saving. Not just our home or our status, but us. The way your eyes used to follow me across rooms. The way your hands used to find mine in the darkness. If there is, I'm still here. If not, I deserve the dignity of knowing that too. Either way, I need your answer before the Carlton Gala. That night, I'll either be dancing with my husband or saying goodbye to this life we built. The choice is yours, but my silence ends now. Maya, she folded the letter again, placed it back on the blotter, and added a single line at the bottom. P.S. I've invited Jordan Reynolds to the gala. At least someone in Charleston still sees me. Maya arranged the 9 unopened letters in a semicircle around the 10th, impossible to ignore. As she turned to leave, she caught her reflection in the window, shoulders straight, eyes clear. For the first time in months, she recognized herself. She sealed her heart inside that final envelope, not knowing Daniel would find it exactly when everything was about to change. How many times have you poured your heart out to someone who didn't bother to listen? If this hits close to home, drop your story below. Sometimes sharing heals what silence broke. 5 days until the Carlton Gala, and the Whitmore mansion had transformed into a war room. Florists, caterers, lighting specialists, and security teams swarmed the property from dawn until dusk. Maya directed this army with practiced precision, her external efficiency masking the earthquake beneath her calm surface. Daniel still hadn't mentioned the letters. He'd been in his study the night she'd arranged them. She'd heard him return, heard the study door close. Hours had passed before he emerged. But at breakfast the next morning, the first they'd shared in weeks, he'd simply asked about the gala preparations. Now, watching workers transform their garden into an enchanted forest of lights and orchids, Maya wondered if she'd imagined leaving the letters at all. Mrs. Whitmore, the head florist approached, tablet in hand. We need your approval on the final table arrangements. Maya nodded, forcing herself back to the present. Of course. How many elaborate distractions have you created to avoid facing the emptiness in your own life? Comment if you've ever thrown yourself into perfecting something that ultimately didn't matter. Her phone vibrated with a text from Jordan. My tux just arrived. Black tie feels like armor. Any advice for surviving my first Charleston social battlefield? Maya smiled despite herself. Over the past days, their texts had become a lifeline. Light, uncomplicated exchanges about roses, architecture, and the absurdities of high society. Nothing inappropriate, nothing crossing lines. Just connection. She texted back, armor is exactly right. Smile constantly, but reveal nothing. And stay near me. I'll translate the subtle insults. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then, looking forward to it. More than I probably should. Heat rose to Maya's cheeks. She tucked her phone away as a familiar voice called from the terrace. The place looks amazing. Daniel stood watching her, hands in pockets, sunglasses hiding his eyes. He looked exhausted, the kind that sleep couldn't fix. Thank you, Maya replied, keeping her distance. The Carlton Foundation expects perfection. Daniel nodded, gaze sweeping the transformation. You always deliver that. An opening, a chance to break the silence about what she'd found. Maya hesitated then, I need to approve my dress fitting. Excuse me. She retreated to their master suite. The room Daniel hadn't slept in for 9 months. Her gala dress hung on a mannequin by the window, a midnight blue creation that seemed to capture starlight. She'd chosen it before discovering the letters, before knowing about their financial reality, before the texting with Jordan began. Maya stepped out of her clothes and stood before the full-length mirror, studying herself with critical eyes. 38 years old, body still firm from religious gym sessions and strict diets. Another way to fill empty hours in a hollow marriage. Her skin, a warm brown that had once drawn Daniel's hands like a magnet, now went untouched. The bathroom door opened unexpectedly. Daniel stood frozen in the doorway, clearly not expecting to find her there. His eyes dropped to her naked form before darting away. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I needed my..." "It's fine." Maya cut him off, making no move to cover herself. Let him look. Let him remember what he'd been avoiding. We're still married, after all. Daniel's gaze returned to her, something flickering in his eyes that she hadn't seen in months. Hunger, perhaps, or memory. "Yes," he said softly. "We are." For a moment, neither moved. The air between them charged with 9 months of absence. Maya watched his throat work as he swallowed, his fingers flexing at his sides. One step. That's all it would take for either of them to close this distance. Neither took it. "Your dress arrived," he said finally, nodding toward the mannequin. "For the gala." Maya reached for her robe, breaking the spell. "Everything needs to be perfect." Daniel watched her cover herself, something like regret crossing his features. "Maya." His phone rang, cutting off whatever he might have said. Always the phone. Always business. He glanced at the screen, and his expression changed. "I have to take this," he said, already turning away. And just like that, the moment collapsed. Maya watched him retreat, his back straightening as he answered, voice shifting into confident investor mode. The man Charleston knew, not the one who just looked at his wife with forgotten hunger. After he left, Maya slipped into the dress, its cool silk embracing her body like water. Standing before the mirror again, she hardly recognized herself. Regal, untouchable, perfect. She took a photo, studied it, then sent it to 2 people. Her mother in Detroit with the caption, "Still deciding," and Jordan with armor acquired. Jordan's response came immediately. "The Queen prepares for battle. Charleston doesn't stand a chance." Maya smiled at her reflection, a plan forming. The Carlton Gala would indeed be perfect, just not in the way anyone expected. The dress hugged every curve Daniel had once memorized with his hands. Tonight would force him to either reclaim her body or watch someone else appreciate the view. If you've ever dressed to remind someone what they're missing, you understand the power of becoming visible again. Have you used beauty as a weapon or shield? Drop a heart if this resonates. The Carlton Foundation Gala transformed the Whitmore Mansion into a fantasy that even Maya barely recognized. Crystal chandeliers reflected in polished marble. Ice sculptures melted slowly beside champagne fountains. String quartets played in carefully positioned corners. 500 of Charleston's wealthiest citizens flowed through rooms designed to impress and intimidate in equal measure. Maya stood at the main entrance beside Daniel, greeting guests with practiced smiles and empty pleasantries. His hand rested lightly at the small of her back, the first sustained contact in months, performed entirely for their audience. "The Cunninghams have arrived," Daniel murmured, leaning close enough that his breath warmed her ear. "Banking dynasty. Potential investors. I know who the Cunninghams are, Daniel," Maya replied through her smile. "I've only hosted them 8 times. His fingers tensed against her spine, then relaxed. "Of course. I just meant Mr. and Mrs. Whitmore." Harrison Cunningham boomed, approaching with his wife. "What a spectacular evening. You've outdone yourselves." Maya stepped forward, embracing Mrs. Cunningham warmly. "Margaret, that dress is stunning on you." Small talk flowed easily. Maya's specialty, cultivated over 15 years as Daniel's perfect partner. But beneath her social grace, her eyes kept drifting to the entrance, watching for Jordan. Have you ever performed happiness so convincingly that even you almost believed it? How long did you maintain the illusion before something cracked? Maya, Daniel's voice cut through her thoughts. The Carlton Foundation president needs us for photos. More performance. More smiles. Maya followed Daniel through the crowd, accepting compliments on the decor, her dress, their generosity in hosting. Several women squeezed her arm with meaningful looks. "You're positively glowing tonight," Caroline Pierce whispered. "Whatever's changed, it suits you." Maya merely smiled, wondering what gossip was already circulating. Had someone seen her with Jordan in the garden? Had rumors of Daniel's financial troubles leaked? The night progressed in a blur of champagne flutes and careful conversation. Daniel played his role flawlessly: attentive husband, brilliant investor, generous host. Anyone watching would see the perfect couple. Until Jordan arrived. Maya spotted him immediately. Tall, commanding in his tuxedo, drawing curious glances as he moved through the predominantly white crowd. Jordan Reynolds, new money, new blood, undeniably magnetic. Their eyes met across the ballroom. He didn't approach immediately, respecting the invisible boundaries of their situation. Instead, he mingled professionally, charming older patrons with his architectural vision for community spaces. "Who is that?" Daniel's voice came suddenly at Maya's ear, his hand finding her waist again, gripped tighter than before. "Jordan Reynolds," she answered simply. "Our new neighbor. I invited him." Daniel's expression remained pleasant for any watching eyes, but his voice lowered. "The same Jordan Reynolds who has an appointment with my firm next week?" So he had noticed. "Is that a problem?" "No," Daniel replied smoothly. "Just unexpected." The orchestra transitioned to a waltz. Daniel's hand slid from her waist to her hand. "Dance with me." It wasn't a request. Maya allowed him to lead her to the center of the floor, where cameras flashed capturing Charleston's power couple. His hand settled at her waist, warm through the silk of her gown. His other hand held hers with unexpected tenderness. "You look beautiful tonight," he said as they moved in perfect rhythm. Another skill practiced to perfection. "Everyone's watching you." "Everyone's always watching us," Maya corrected. "That's the point, isn't it? The performance." Daniel's steps faltered slightly before resuming. "Is that what you think this is?" Maya met his gaze directly. "Isn't it? 9 months, Daniel. 9 months of nothing. And suddenly you can't keep your hands off me in public." His jaw tightened. "You found the letters. I found them unopened." The waltz continued around them, their bodies moving automatically while something electric passed between them. "Maya, there are things you don't understand." "I understand bankruptcy meetings," she cut in, voice low but sharp. "I understand home valuations. I understand secrets." Daniel's face paled beneath his tan. His fingers tightened on her waist. "How did you?" "The same way I discovered you never read a single word I wrote to you." I looked. The music swelled towards conclusion. Daniel pulled her closer, their bodies pressed together in a mockery of intimacy. "We need to talk," he whispered urgently. "Tonight, after everyone leaves." "I've been trying to talk to you for 9 months, Maya replied, pulling back as the music ended. Applause surrounded them. She curtsied slightly, the perfect wife concluding the perfect dance. As she straightened, she saw Jordan watching from across the room, something unreadable in his expression. Their eyes locked. He raised a champagne glass slightly in silent acknowledgement. "Excuse me," Maya said to Daniel. "I should check on the dessert service." Before he could respond, she glided away, moving through the crowd with practiced ease. She didn't head toward the kitchen. Instead, she circled the perimeter of the ballroom until she reached Jordan's side. "Mrs. Whitmore." He greeted her formally, aware of watching eyes. "An extraordinary event." "Thank you for coming," she replied, equally formal. "Are you enjoying yourself?" "More now." His voice dropped slightly. "That was quite a dance." Maya accepted a fresh champagne from a passing waiter. "Charleston is always watching. Everything is performance." "Not everything," Jordan said, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "I meant what I said about your roses. They're already looking healthier." The simple observation, That he'd noticed her garden, checked on it, cared about its progress, struck Maya with unexpected force. When was the last time Daniel had noticed anything she cared about? "Would you like a tour of the art collection?" she heard herself asking. "It's quieter in the East Wing." Jordan's smile reached his eyes, crinkling the corners. "I like that very much." Neither noticed Daniel watching from across the room, his knuckles white around his whiskey glass, his phone buzzing with an urgent call from his bankruptcy attorney. Her laughter with Jordan echoed across the ballroom, the sound of something breaking in Daniel that he didn't know could still break. When was the last time you risked everything for a moment of genuine connection? Would you rather have safe emptiness or dangerous authenticity? Tell me your choice below. The East Wing of the Whitmore Mansion housed Daniel's pride, a collection of contemporary art worth millions. Floor-to-ceiling windows lined one wall, while paintings and sculptures worth small fortunes occupied the other. Security cameras blinked silently from discreet corners. Maya led Jordan through the gallery space, hyper-aware of his presence beside her. Other guests rarely ventured this far from the main event, making the wing feel intimate despite its grandeur. "That's an original Basquiat," she explained, gesturing toward a particularly vibrant canvas. "Daniel acquired it at auction 3 years ago." Jordan studied the artwork, hands clasped behind his back. "Interesting choice. Did he buy it because he loved it or because it was expected for someone of his position?" The question caught Maya off guard, direct, almost challenging. "Does it matter?" "I think it does." Jordan turned to face her. "Art should move you, not just impress your guests." Maya considered this, then moved toward a smaller painting tucked between more imposing pieces. "This one," she said softly. "This is the only one I chose." The painting showed a woman standing at a window, back to the viewer, looking out a storm. Something about her posture conveyed both longing and resolve. "It's beautiful," Jordan said, stepping closer. To the painting or to her, Maya wasn't certain. "She looks like she's deciding whether to stay safe inside or step into the storm." Have you ever stood at the edge of a decision, knowing that safety and danger waited on opposite sides? What made you finally choose? Drop your turning point moment below. That's exactly why I chose it. Maya's voice dropped to nearly a whisper. "I saw it the year after we moved to Charleston. Something about her called to me." Jordan's eyes moved from the painting to Maya's face. "And now I understand her better." Maya met his gaze. She's not deciding whether to go out into the storm. She's deciding whether staying dry is worth missing the rain on her skin. The air between them thickened. Jordan's eyes dropped briefly to her lips before returning to her eyes. "Maya," he began, voice low. The sound of approaching footsteps cut him off. They stepped apart instinctively as an older couple entered the gallery. "There you are, Mrs. Whitmore," the woman called. "Everyone's gathering for the foundation presentation. Your husband is looking for you." Maya nodded, composure returning instantly. "Of course. Please excuse me, Mr. Reynolds. Duty calls." Jordan's expression remained neutral, though something flickered in his eyes. "I'll find my way back." The foundation presentation, the night's centerpiece. Maya hurried toward the main ballroom, smoothing her dress, checking her reflection in a passing mirror. The woman who looked back appeared flushed, eyes bright with something dangerous. Daniel waited at the edge of the small stage erected for the evening, speaking intently with Harrison Cunningham and the Carleton Foundation president. His expression lightened when he spotted her, one hand extending automatically. "There you are," he said, drawing her to his side. His fingers laced through hers, warm and secure. "Everything all right?" "Perfect," Maya replied, squeezing his hand with surprising genuineness. The energy from her almost moment with Jordan still hummed through her veins, making even Daniel's touch feel electric. The lights dimmed. Conversations hushed. The foundation president stepped to the microphone, thanking the Whitmores for their generosity in hosting. Daniel guided Maya onto the small stage, his hands steady at her back. "Tonight," the president announced, "we're honored to announce a major new initiative funding arts education in Charleston's underserved communities. This program will transform opportunities for thousands of young people across our city." Applause filled the room. Maya scanned the crowd automatically, finding Jordan near the back, his eyes fixed on her. "We've raised over $2 million tonight," the president continued, with a matching donation promised by the evening's generous hosts, Daniel and Maya Whitmore. More applause. Maya's smile froze. $2 million? They didn't have $2 million. Not if what she'd seen on Daniel's computer was true. Daniel stepped forward to the microphone, the perfect picture of wealthy confidence. "My wife and I are deeply committed to this community," he began, his voice carrying effortlessly. "Charleston has given us so much. It's our privilege to give back." Maya watched him, truly seeing him for the first time in months. The slight tightness around his eyes, the carefully controlled breathing. He was terrified beneath that polished exterior. "But tonight," Daniel continued, surprising her, "I'd like to recognize the true force behind our family's community involvement. My wife, Maya." He turned, extending his hand to her. Caught off guard, Maya stepped forward. "For 15 years, Daniel said, looking directly at her now. Speaking to her, though his words carried to hundreds, "Maya has been not just my partner, but the heart of everything we do. While I've been focused on business, she has quietly built relationships throughout Charleston that have made our home here meaningful." The room faded away. For the first time in 9 months, Daniel was truly looking at her, seeing her. The Carleton Foundation's New Arts Initiative was actually Maya's vision. He continued, a revelation to her as much as to the audience. 3 years ago, she brought this concept to the foundation board. Tonight, we're seeing her persistence and passion come to fruition. Maya stared at him, speechless. She had mentioned the idea once, casually, after visiting a school in a struggling neighborhood. She'd never imagined Daniel had even heard her, let alone remembered. "So while I'm proud to match tonight's fundraising," Daniel concluded, "the real recognition belongs to my wife. This is her legacy to Charleston." The applause was thunderous. Daniel's hand found hers again, squeezing gently. Cameras flashed, capturing the perfect moment between Charleston's power couple. Maya smiled radiantly, playing her role flawlessly while her mind raced. What game was Daniel playing? This grand gesture, this public adoration, after 9 months of emptiness? As they stepped off the stage, Daniel leaned close to her ear. "I need 20 minutes in my study. Harrison Cunningham is interested in a major investment opportunity. When I'm done, we need to talk about everything." Before she could respond, he kissed her cheek, the press of his lips warm and firm, and disappeared into the crowd. Maya stood momentarily alone in a sea of admirers. Women surrounded her with congratulations. Men nodded respectfully from a distance. She accepted their praise graciously, all while watching Daniel weave purposefully toward his study, Harrison Cunningham in tow. Then her eyes found Jordan, still watching from the periphery. Something in his expression had changed. Concern, perhaps, or recognition. He began moving toward her, but was intercepted by a group of potential clients. Maya's phone vibrated in her hidden dress pocket. A text from an unknown number. "Your husband is being served foreclosure papers tomorrow morning. I thought you deserved warning. This information comes at a price." She stared at the screen, blood rushing in her ears. Another text followed immediately. "Meet me in the garden house in 10 minutes if you want details. Come alone." Maya looked up, scanning the crowd for Daniel, for Jordan, for any clue to the sender's identity. Finding none, she slipped the phone back in her pocket and moved toward the French doors leading to the garden, heart hammering against her ribs. She slept safe for the first time and fled by sunrise, leaving an imprint in the pillow and a confession she wouldn't say. Ever received a message that changed everything in an instant? What did you do in those critical moments when your world shifted beneath your feet? Share your life-changing moment below. The garden house stood at the far edge of the Whitmore property, a small stone building originally used for storing tools, later converted into a luxurious retreat. Maya had furnished it herself as a private sanctuary, a place to escape when the mansion felt too vast, too empty. Now, she approached it with caution, the night air cool against her bare shoulders. Security lights illuminated the manicured path, but shadows gathered between. Music from the gala drifted faintly behind her. 500 guests, and no one had noticed her slip away. The guardhouse door stood slightly ajar, warm light spilling onto the stone step. Maya hesitated, suddenly aware of her vulnerability. She should have told someone where she was going. She should have ignored the text entirely. But the threat of foreclosure papers, the public humiliation that would follow, propelled her forward. "Hello," she called, pushing the door open wider. Caroline Pierce sat in Maya's favorite reading chair, a glass of stolen champagne in her manicured hand. "Close the door, darling. We wouldn't want to be interrupted." Maya stepped inside, letting the door swing shut behind her. Relief and confusion battled within her. "Caroline, you sent those texts?" Caroline smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. "Forgive the dramatics. I needed to speak with you privately." "About foreclosure papers?" Maya remained standing, keeping distance between them. "Oh, that part's quite real." Caroline sipped her champagne. "The Whitmore empire is crumbling as we speak. Daniel's last 3 investments were catastrophic failures. He's been borrowing from increasingly dangerous sources to maintain appearances." The confirmation of what Maya had glimpsed on Daniel's computer still landed like a physical blow. "How do you know this?" "My husband sits on the board of Charleston National Bank." Caroline examined her perfect manicure. "The bank that's calling in Daniel's loans tomorrow morning. $15 million due immediately. Percent." Maya sank onto the window seat, the magnitude hitting her. $15 million. An impossible sum. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked finally. "Because I like you, Maya. Always have." Caroline leaned forward. "You're too good for Daniel. Too good for what's coming. When someone reveals secrets that shatter your reality, do you shoot the messenger or thank them for the warning? Has a painful truth ever saved you from something worse?" Maya studied the woman across from her. Caroline Pierce, old Charleston money, keeper of society. Bankruptcy, social exile, criminal charges, possibly, depending on what the forensic accountants find. Caroline shrugged elegantly. The usual trajectory when men like Daniel fall, and they always take their wives down with them. Maya's mind raced. "What's the price you mentioned for this information?" Caroline smiled again, this time with genuine amusement. "Smart girl. I'm offering you a lifeboat, Maya. A chance to distance yourself before the torpedo hits. I'm listening. File for divorce. Tonight, I have a lawyer on standby who can process emergency papers." Caroline pulled a business card from her clutch. "Claim emotional abandonment, which we both know is true. My husband will ensure your personal assets are protected when everything else freezes tomorrow." Maya stared at the card without taking it. "You want me to abandon Daniel the night before he loses everything? I want you to save yourself." Caroline's voice softened slightly. "Look, we all see what's been happening. 9 months of him ignoring you. The separate bedrooms. And now this neighbor who makes you light up like I haven't seen in years." Heat rushed to Maya's face. "Jordan has nothing to do with this, doesn't he?" Caroline arched a perfect eyebrow. "You're not the first woman to find comfort outside a dead marriage, Maya. Charleston runs on discretion." Maya stood abruptly. "I think you should leave. The lawyer will be at the Palmetto Hotel until midnight." Caroline placed the card on the side table as she rose. "This offer expires when the banks open tomorrow." She moved to the door, then paused. "Oh, and Maya, your little architect friend? He's being courted by my husband's development company. Might want to ask him about that." The door closed behind her, leaving Maya alone with the champagne glass and business card, and questions multiplying by the second. Her phone vibrated again. "Daniel, where are you?" "Cunningham is ready to commit to the investment." Maya stared at the message, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. "What investment? What money could Harrison Cunningham possibly be giving to a man about to be served foreclosure papers?" She typed back, "Garden House. We need to talk. Now." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. "Finally, give me 10 minutes." Maya pocketed Caroline's card and moved to the window, looking back toward the brightly lit mansion. From this distance, it looked like a fairy tale, perfect, enchanted, invulnerable. By tomorrow, everyone would know it was built on sand. Movement caught her eye, a figure cutting across the lawn toward the garden house. Not Daniel's familiar silhouette, but Jordan's. Maya's heart jumped unexpectedly. He knocked softly before entering. "Maya, are you all right? I saw you leave looking upset." She turned to face him, suddenly aware of how this might appear. Meeting alone in a secluded building during her own gala. "I'm fine," she said automatically. "Just needed a moment." Jordan studied her face. "You don't look fine. You look like someone just pulled your world out from under you." The simple accuracy of his observation cracked something in Maya's careful composure. "That's exactly what happened," she admitted, voice catching. He moved closer, concern evident. "Can I help? Why are you meeting with Pierce Development?" The question burst from her before she could reconsider. Jordan blinked, surprise crossing his features. "How did you answer the question?" Maya needed truth from someone, anyone. "They approached me about designing their new mixed-use development downtown." His voice remained calm, open. "It's a potential client meeting, nothing more. Did you know they're also involved with my husband's business?" Understanding dawned in Jordan's eyes. "I didn't. Maya, what's going on?" The door opened again before she could respond. Daniel stood in the entrance, his expression shifting from concern to cold fury at the sight of Jordan. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, stepping inside and closing the door with controlled force. "Not what you think," Maya replied, maintaining distance for both men. "Mr. Whitmore," Jordan began, "I was just leaving," Daniel finished for him. "Now." Jordan looked to Maya, clearly unwilling to leave her if she needed him. The silent offer of protection touched something deep inside her. "It's okay," she told him softly. "My husband and I need to talk." Jordan nodded once, dignity intact. "I'll see myself out." At the door, he paused, looking directly at Daniel. "You have an extraordinary wife, Mr. Whitmore. I hope you remember that." The silence after his departure hummed with tension. Daniel's jaw worked visibly, control clearly hanging by a thread. $15 million, Maya said before he could speak. "Due tomorrow morning." Daniel's face drained of color. "How did you?" "Caroline Pierce just offered me a divorce lawyer if I file tonight." Maya pulled the business card from her pocket. "Apparently her husband sits on the bank board that's foreclosing on our home tomorrow." Daniel stared at her, shock replacing anger. "Maya, I can explain." 9 months, Daniel." Her voice remained steady despite the storm inside her. 9 months of silence while you lost everything. 9 months of pushing me away while our life collapsed. He moved toward her, stopping when she raised a hand. "I was trying to protect you. By lying? By shutting me out? By making me think I'd done something wrong." The hurt of those months broke through her composure. "I wrote you 9 letters begging to understand what had happened to us. You couldn't even open them." Shame crossed Daniel's features. "I couldn't face you. I couldn't admit I'd failed. Failed at business. Or failed as a husband." Maya asked quietly. The question hung between them as music from the gala suddenly swelled. The dancing had resumed. 500 guests celebrating in their home, none knowing that by morning, the Whitmore name would be synonymous with financial ruin. Daniel took a shaky breath. Both. The music continued, but 3 people stopped breathing, trapped in a triangle of desire, ownership, and awakening that threatened everything they thought they understood. When everything falls apart, do you cling to the familiar ruins or risk building something new? Comment below if you've ever had to choose between a comfortable lie and a painful new beginning. "Both," Daniel repeated, sinking onto the window seat. "I failed at everything that matters." Maya watched him. This man she'd built her life around, now crumbling before her eyes. Part of her wanted to comfort him. Another part wanted to shake him for the months of silence, the secrets, the waste of what they'd had. "Start talking," she said instead, crossing her arms. "All of it." Daniel ran a hand over his face. The carefully constructed charm of Charleston's most successful investor completely gone. It started about 10 months ago. The Meridian Project. The tech startup? The one you said was guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. His laugh held no humor. They had promising technology, but terrible management. I put $6 million into it before realizing they were hemorrhaging money. By then, it was too late. Maya paced the small confines of the garden house. So you lost an investment. That happens in your world. Why the secrecy? Because I try to fix it myself. Daniel's voice dropped. I pulled money from our other holdings to cover the losses. Then from our personal accounts. Then I started borrowing. From banks. At first, you wouldn't meet her eyes now. Then from private lenders when the banks started asking questions. Maya stopped pacing. What kind of private lenders? The kind who don't care about credit scores. Daniel finally looked up, desperation clear. I was trying to save us, Maya. Everything we built. Our reputation. Our life here. Our life. The words tasted bitter. 9 months ago, you stopped touching me. Stopped talking to me. Stopped being my husband in every way that matters. Was that part of saving us? Daniel flinched. I couldn't bear it. Coming to bed beside you, knowing what I'd done, what I was still doing. Lying to you every day while trying to dig us out of a hole that kept getting deeper. So instead you made me think I'd done something wrong. Maya's voice shook now. Do you have any idea what that did to me? Wondering every day what had made my husband stop loving me. Have you ever been shut out by someone you love, left to wonder what you did wrong? How long did you blame yourself before realizing the problem wasn't yours? I never stopped loving you. Daniel stood, moving toward her. That's why I couldn't face you. I was ashamed. The great Daniel Whitmore, financial genius, destroyer of everything his wife sacrificed to help build. Maya stepped back, maintaining distance. And tonight, this grand gesture at the foundation presentation, what was that? The truth. His eyes held hers steadily. Everything I said on that stage was true. You are the heart of whatever good we've done here. I wanted you to have that recognition before it all falls apart. Maya finished for him. How bad is it really? 15 million due tomorrow. Can you pay it? Daniel's silence was answer enough. The house, she pressed. Mortgaged 3 times over. My jewelry? The art collection? Collateral? Daniel's voice was barely audible. All of it. Maya felt oddly calm now, the reality solidifying around her. And Harrison Cunningham? What investment was he discussing tonight? A last-ditch rescue attempt. Daniel moved to the small bar cart, pouring himself 2 fingers of whiskey with a shaking hand. If he puts 5 million into a new venture, I might convince the bank to restructure rather than foreclose. And will he, after your presentation tonight? Daniel downed the whiskey in one swallow. He was about to sign the papers when you texted. The implication hung in the air. Maya had potentially ruined their last chance by demanding this conversation now. You should go back, she said quietly. Try to salvage it. Daniel stared at her, disbelief crossing his features. After everything I just told you? After what Caroline offered you? You're telling me to try to save us. I'm telling you to do whatever you can to avoid prison, Maya corrected. Private lenders who don't care about credit scores usually care very much about getting their money back. Understanding dawned in Daniel's eyes. You're right. He set down the glass. Maya, go. She cut him off, not ready for whatever apology or promise he might offer. We'll talk after. Daniel moved to the door, then paused. Jordan Reynolds. Is he why Caroline thought you'd jump at a divorce? The question surprised her. No, I barely know him. But you want to... It wasn't a question. Maya met his gaze directly. He sees me, Daniel. After months of being invisible in my own marriage, being seen feels like oxygen. Pain flashed across Daniel's face, real, undisguised. I deserve that. Yes, Maya agreed simply. You do. He nodded once, hand on the doorknob. Whatever happens tomorrow, with the bank with us, I'm sorry, Maya. For all of it. After he left, Maya sank into the chair Caroline had occupied, suddenly exhausted. Outside, the gala continued. Music, laughter, 500 people enjoying Whitmore hospitality one last time. Her phone vibrated with a text from Jordan. Everything all right? Maya stared at the screen, uncertain how to respond. Nothing was all right. Everything was falling apart. And yet, some small, treacherous part of her felt relief that the pretense was finally over. She typed back, no, but thank you for asking. Enjoy the rest of the gala. Jordan, I'm leaving actually. Too many sharks circling. Call if you need anything, anytime. Maya's thumb hovered over the screen. A door opening. A choice. Another text arrived, this one from her mother in Detroit. "Baby girl, just checking in. Miss you." Maya closed her eyes, suddenly overwhelmed by the paths diverging before her. Stay and weather the coming storm with Daniel. Take Caroline's escape route and save herself. Return to Detroit and start over. Or explore whatever unspoken possibility existed with Jordan. When she opened her eyes again, her reflection stared back from the garden house window. A woman in a couture gown, alone in a hideaway, while her life imploded at a charity gala. 9 months of his absence versus 1 night of Jordan's attention. The math was devastatingly simple, yet Maya found herself unable to walk out the door. If you could erase your current life and start over tomorrow, would you do it? Or would you stay and fight for what might still be saved? Your answer reveals more about what you truly value than any words could say. Dawn crept through the garden house windows, painting Maya's rumpled gown with golden light. She'd spent the night there, curled in the reading chair, unwilling to return to the mansion even after the last guest departed. Unwilling to face Daniel. Unwilling to decide. Her phone showed dozens of missed calls and texts from Daniel, from her mother, from Caroline. None from Jordan. She'd expected that. He was too decent to push when she was clearly in crisis. The morning air carried birdsong and the scent of dew-damp roses as Maya finally stood, working the stiffness from her limbs. The events of last night felt simultaneously distant and razor-sharp. Daniel's confession, Caroline's offer, Jordan's concern, $15 million due today. Maya slipped off her heels, walking barefoot across the lawn toward the silent mansion. Staff would arrive soon to clean up the gala's aftermath. Caterers would return for their equipment. Life would continue its motions while her world reconfigured itself. The kitchen door stood ajar. Maya entered cautiously, finding Daniel at the massive island counter. Suit jacket discarded, tie loosened, eyes red-rimmed from either alcohol or sleeplessness. Probably both. A stack of papers lay before him. He looked up at her entrance. "You stayed in the garden house." "I needed space." Maya moved to the coffee maker, needing its ritual normalcy. "Did Cunningham sign?" "Yes." Daniel's voice held no triumph. $5 million. Not nearly enough, but might buy us time. How much time? A week. Maybe 2. He pushed the stack of papers toward her. "The bank agreed to postpone foreclosure temporarily, but they want your signature too. Since the house is in both our names." Maya ignored the papers, focusing on measuring coffee grounds. "And if I don't sign, they move forward today. We lose everything immediately." The coffee maker gurgled to life, its familiar sound absurdly ordinary amid their collapsing reality. Maya turned to face him fully. "Why should I sign, Daniel? Give me one reason that isn't about your pride or your business. What hurts more, being rejected or discovering the rejection, was never about you. Can understanding someone's pain excuse their behavior? Share your experience below." Daniel's expression cracked, the last vestiges of the confident investor falling away. "Because I love you. Because I've loved you every day for 15 years, even these past 9 months when I couldn't show it." "Love doesn't shut people out," Maya countered, crossing her arms. "Love doesn't leave letters unopened." "I know." His voice broke slightly. "I was drowning, Maya. Every investment failing. Every attempt to fix things making it worse. I couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. The only time I felt anything but terror was when I was working, trying to solve the impossible equation. So you worked, and I what? Just ceased to exist for you." Daniel's hands spread in a helpless gesture. "The first night I didn't come to bed, it was because I couldn't face you. Couldn't lie beside you knowing I might lose everything you trusted me with. Then one night became 2, then a week, then 9 months," Maya finished. "And in all that time, you never thought to just tell me the truth? To let me help carry this? What could you have done?" The question held no judgment, only genuine wonder. "Been your wife, Daniel. Your partner." Anger flared, hot and cleansing. "Instead, you made me a spectator in my own marriage. Do you have any idea how that felt? Watching you pull further away every day while I questioned everything about myself." Daniel's eyes closed briefly, pain evident. I didn't want you to see me fail. So instead, you made me feel like I was the failure. Maya's voice rose despite herself, like I wasn't attractive enough, interesting enough, good enough to keep my husband's attention. That was never true. Daniel stood, moving around the island toward her. You were the one perfect thing in my life. I couldn't bear to taint you with my mistakes. I'm not a thing, Daniel. Perfect or otherwise. Maya stepped back, maintaining distance. I'm a person who deserved honesty. They stood in silence, the coffee maker's final gurgles the only sound. Morning light strengthened outside, a beautiful day dawning on their beautiful disaster. The letters, Maya said finally. Why didn't you read them? Daniel's gaze dropped. Because I was afraid of what they'd say. That you'd figured it out. That you'd leave me. Or worse, that you still loved me despite everything. And I'd have to face how badly I was hurting you. The simple honesty of this confession pierced Maya's anger, leaving something more complicated in its wake. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding perhaps. What happens now, she asked. If I sign those papers, if we get 2 more weeks, what changes? Everything. Daniel took a shaky breath. I'm meeting with a bankruptcy attorney this afternoon. We'll have to sell most of our assets, liquidate investments, possibly face charges depending on what they find. We'll lose the house. Almost certainly. Maya moved to the massive windows overlooking their perfectly manicured grounds. And us? What happens to us, Daniel? She heard him move closer, stopping just behind her. Close enough to touch, though he didn't. That depends on you, he said softly. I've put you through hell these past months. I wouldn't blame you for taking Caroline's offer. Maya turned to face him. Is that what you want? For me to file for divorce and save myself? What I want, Daniel replied, voice raw with emotion, is to go back 9 months and make a different choice. To come to bed that first night, tell you everything, and face it together. But I can't do that. The confession hung between them, simple and devastating in its honesty. No, Maya agreed. You can't. She moved past him to the island counter, picking up the bank papers. The legal language blurred before her eyes, but the meaning was clear enough. Sign, and they have 2 weeks of borrowed time. Don't sign, and it ended today. Maya thought of Caroline's divorce lawyer, waiting at the Palmetto Hotel, of her mother's text, the implicit invitation back to Detroit, of Jordan's quiet offer of help, different paths, different futures. If I sign this, she said carefully, I'm not promising to stay. I'm promising to think about it, to consider what 15 years means against 9 months of pain. That's all. Hope flickered in Daniel's exhausted eyes. That's more than I deserve. Yes, Maya agreed, reaching for a pen. It is. She signed her name beside his, the action neither forgiveness nor commitment, merely a pause, a breath before the next decision. Daniel's phone rang as she set down the pen. He glanced at the screen, tension returning to his shoulders. The bankruptcy attorney. Take it, Maya said, moving toward the door. I need a shower and clean clothes. We could talk more after. As she climbed the grand staircase toward their master suite, Maya felt oddly weightless. The worst had happened. The secrets were exposed. The perfect facade was finally shattered. Daniel's phone lit up with bankruptcy warnings as Jordan's text illuminated Maya's screen. I've never met anyone like you. Don't settle for being invisible. Is starting over with someone who broke you braver than walking away? What's the difference between forgiveness and foolishness? I want to hear your thoughts below. The guest house stood empty, its furniture covered with white sheets like ghosts of a former life. Maya directed the movers with quiet efficiency, pointing to where her clothes should go, which books she wanted unpacked first. The rest would remain in storage until what? Until they knew where they'd land when the dust settled. 3 days had passed since the gala. 3 days of lawyers, accountants, and financial forensics teams combing through what remained of the Whitmore empire. 3 days of Daniel locked in his study with bankruptcy attorneys, emerging only for more coffee and brief, uncertain glances in Maya's direction. 3 days of Maya sleeping alone in their master suite, increasingly aware she couldn't stay there much longer. The mansion would be sold, that much was certain. But in the meantime, she needed space. Distance to think, The guest house offered that. Close enough to face this crisis together, far enough to breathe. "That's the last box, Mrs. Whitmore," the moving foreman said, handing her a clipboard to sign. "Thank you." Maya scrawled her signature, one of hundreds she'd provided in recent days, each releasing some piece of the life they'd built. When the movers left, she began removing the sheets, reclaiming the space she'd decorated years ago as a creative retreat. A place to read, to think, to breathe when the mansion felt too formal, too perfect. Her phone chimed with a text from Jordan. "Haven't heard from you. Just checking in." No pressure to respond. Maya smiled despite herself. 3 days, and he'd given her complete space while still letting her know he was there. The opposite of pressure. She typed back, "Moved to the guest house on our property. Taking some space to think. Thank you for checking in." His response came quickly. "Guest house sound wise. If you need anything, coffee, conversation, or just company without questions, I'm across the fence." Maya set the phone down, continuing to unpack. The simple offer warmed something inside her that had been cold for months. The sound of footsteps on the stone path drew her attention to the window. Daniel approached, looking smaller somehow, his confident stride replaced by something more hesitant. He carried a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. Maya opened the door before he could knock. E. He stood awkwardly on the threshold. "I saw the movers leave. Thought you might want this." He held up the wine, a vintage they discovered on their 10th anniversary trip to France. Maya stepped back, allowing him inside. "I was just unpacking." Daniel looked around at the half-settled space. "It looks nice. Cozy." The awkwardness between them felt almost surreal after 15 years of marriage. Maya took the wine, finding an opener in a kitchen drawer. "Any news from the attorneys?" Daniel sat on the edge of the sofa. "They've negotiated a structured bankruptcy. We'll lose most assets, but they believe they can keep us out of criminal territory. That's something at least." Maya poured 2 glasses, handing him one. "The house goes on the market next week." Daniel stared into his wine. "They're letting us stay until it sells, but we should start looking for alternatives." Alternatives. Such a bland word for starting over from scratch at 43. Does returning to your roots help you find yourself or remind you why you left? When does comfort become regression? Share your thoughts on going back to move forward. "I've been thinking," Maya said, settling into an armchair across from him. "Maybe we should consider Detroit." Daniel looked up sharply. "Detroit? My old firm has offered me a position several times over the years. The last offer came just 6 months ago." Maya took a careful sip of wine. "It wouldn't be what we have here, but it would be a start. Somewhere we have connections." "We?" Daniel's voice held cautious hope. "You're considering staying together through this?" Maya studied him over a glass. "I haven't decided yet, but I'm thinking about practicalities. Whether together or separate, we need plans." Daniel nodded, accepting this non-answer. "I've started therapy," he said abruptly. 2 sessions so far. The revelation surprised her. "That's good. I should have done it years ago," he said, his barely touched wine aside. "The therapist thinks I've been using work to avoid emotional vulnerability my entire adult life. That losing money triggered my deepest fears of worthlessness." Maya absorbed this. "And what do you think?" "I think she's right." Daniel met her eyes directly. "I think I've been hiding in success, using it as a shield. When that started crumbling, I hid even more. From everyone, especially you." The honesty between them felt new and fragile. For months, Maya had craved exactly this kind of conversation. Real, unguarded, true. Now that it was happening, she wasn't sure what to do with it. "I'm glad you're getting help," she said finally. "I've been thinking about it too." "Therapy?" Maya nodded. "For myself. To understand why I accepted 9 months of emotional abandonment instead of demanding answers. Why I was willing to become invisible in my own marriage." Daniel flinched at her words, but didn't argue. Progress of a sort. They sat in silence for a moment, the evening light casting long shadows through the guest house windows. Outside, the garden bloomed in lush Charleston splendor, indifferent to the humans and their crumbling lives. "I should let you finish settling in," Daniel said, eventually standing. Thank you for the wine. In the conversation. At the door, he paused. Maya, I miss you. I know I have no right to say that after everything, but it's true. Something fluttered in Maya's chest. Not forgiveness, not desire, but perhaps the memory of both. I miss who we were, she replied honestly. I'm not sure those people exist anymore. Daniel nodded, accepting this truth without argument. Good night, Maya. After he left, Maya moved to the window, watching his figure retreat toward the main house. The guest house bed remained empty that night, not because she didn't want him, but because healing demanded more than the temporary comfort of his body against hers. Have you ever had to rebuild trust after a betrayal? What was the first small step that showed real change was possible? Your stories help others heal. Share below. Maya stood in the terminal at Charleston International Airport, carry-on gripped tightly in one hand, boarding pass to Detroit in the other. 3 weeks after the gala, 2 weeks after moving to the guest house, she was taking her first step toward what? Escape? Reconnaissance? A future without Daniel? She wasn't sure yet. The bankruptcy proceedings moved forward with brutal efficiency. Their assets frozen, their accounts monitored, their spending approved by court-appointed trustees. The mansion had been listed, already attracting interest from venture capitalists looking for a bargain on a distressed property. Daniel had suggested she take this trip. Go see if Detroit still feels like home, he'd said during one of their careful, nightly conversations on the guest house porch. The firm wants to meet with you anyway. 2 birds, 1 stone. What he hadn't said, this might be your escape route. Take it if you need it. Maya checked her watch. Still 30 minutes before boarding. She found a quiet corner and pulled out her phone, thumbing through recent texts. Her mother. Can't wait to see you, baby girl. Your old room is ready. Jordan. Safe travels. The roses will miss your attention. Daniel. Call when you land. If you want to. If you finally got power, would you fix the system that broke you? Or just save yourself and call it wisdom? Which path says more about your character? 3 men, 3 different types of caring. Her past, her present, her possible future? No. Maya shook her head, dismissing the thought. Jordan was a friend, a connection that had appeared precisely when she'd felt most disconnected. Nothing more. And yet his texts made her smile in a way that felt dangerous and alive. The boarding announcement jolted Maya from her thoughts. She joined the line, mind turning to the meetings ahead. Hennigan and Burke, her old law firm, had been pursuing her for years. Now, with the Whitmore name tarnished by bankruptcy, they'd renewed their offer with surprising enthusiasm. Your personal reputation remains excellent, the managing partner had assured her by phone. Charleston society wives are calling you the victim, abandoned by an increasingly desperate husband, kept in the dark while he lost everything. We can work with that narrative. The assessment made Maya's skin crawl even as she recognized its strategic value. Victim, is that how people saw her now? Is that how she saw herself? 2 hours into the flight, Maya ordered a gin and tonic, something she rarely drank. The alcohol warmed her veins as she watched clouds drift beneath the wing. Her phone, in airplane mode, still showed Daniel's last text like a question mark. Would she call when she landed? Did she wanna? 15 years together. 9 months of emotional abandonment. 3 weeks of painful honesty since everything collapsed. The math of marriage couldn't be calculated so simply. Detroit looked exactly as she remembered and completely different. Her mother waited at baggage claim, arms outstretched, face creased with worry and love. My baby, she murmured into Maya's hair as they embraced. Finally home. Home. Was it still? The drive through familiar streets brought unexpected emotion to Maya's throat. Her old neighborhood had improved. New businesses, renovated homes, signs of the city's slow recovery evident everywhere. Your timing is perfect, her mother said as they turned onto her street. The firm's been calling daily, and 3 of your high school friends are getting together tomorrow night. They're dying to see you. Maya smiled, grateful for her mother's excitement, and equally grateful that she'd booked a hotel downtown after 2 nights here. Space to think remained essential. That evening, surrounded by childhood photos and her mother's cooking, Maya finally called Daniel. I landed safely, she said when he answered on the first ring. Detroit is Detroit. Good flight. His voice sounded different, more relaxed than she'd heard in months. Fine. The firm meeting is tomorrow at 10. They'll offer you everything, Daniel said with certainty. They'd be fools not to. Silence stretched between them, comfortable yet charged. How are things there? Maya asked finally. We have 3 offers on the house already, well above asking. That's good, I suppose. More silence. Then Daniel spoke, his voice dropping lower. I miss you, Maya. The guest house light was dark last night. I kept looking for it. The simple admission, this glimpse of loneliness, tugged at something inside her. I miss. Maya paused, surprising herself with what came next. I miss our talks on the porch. The honest ones. Me too. His voice warmed. When you get back, maybe we could have dinner somewhere. Not the house, somewhere neutral. I'd like that. The response came without hesitation. After they hung up, Maya sat on her childhood bed, running her fingers over the worn quilt her grandmother had made. Tomorrow would bring the firm's offer, a clear path back to her old life, her professional identity, financial security separate from Daniel's collapse. The smart move would be to take it, to rebuild in familiar territory. So why did the thought fill her with such uncertainty? Her phone chimed with a text from Jordan. Charleston sky, especially beautiful tonight. Thought you might want to see it. Attached was a photo of the sunset over her roses, thriving now under his care, with the guest house visible in the background, dark and waiting. Her childhood bedroom felt foreign now, but so did their mansion. Home, Maya realized, wasn't Charleston or Detroit. It was wherever she finally felt seen. Have you ever stood between your past and future, unsure which direction meant growth and which meant retreat? What finally helped you decide? Share your turning point below. The conference room at Hannigan and Burke sparkled with morning sunlight and opportunity. 8 partners sat around a polished table, smiling at Maya with the hungry look of people about to close an important deal. As you can see, Barbara Hannigan said, sliding a folder across the table, we're prepared to offer a full partnership track. Your experience with Charleston's elite clientele makes you uniquely valuable to our expanding practice. Maya opened the folder, scanning the numbers. The salary made her breath catch, nearly triple what she'd earned before leaving for Charleston 15 years ago. We'd also provide relocation assistance, Thomas Burke added, help finding a suitable home in Bloomfield Hills. The right address matters in this business. Maya glanced up. Bloomfield Hills. Barbara nodded, elegant in her tailored suit. We assume you wouldn't want to return to your previous neighborhood, given your adjusted circumstances. The delicate phrasing didn't hide the meaning. After 15 years as a Whitmore, Maya couldn't possibly want to live in an ordinary Detroit neighborhood again. I see. Maya closed the folder. In my current situation, the bankruptcy proceedings? Not an issue. Barbara waved dismissively. Our clients appreciate discretion and resilience. Your experience navigating Charleston society gives you skills our other partners lack. And what exactly would those skills be helping your clients do? Navigate challenging transitions. Thomas smiled thinly. Many of our high net worth clients face adjustments, divorces, financial setbacks, public scrutiny. Maya understood perfectly. They wanted Charleston's fallen queen to help Detroit's wealthy navigate their own potential falls. To teach them the skills she developed these past weeks. How to hold your head high while everything crumbled, how to negotiate with creditors while maintaining social standing. They were offering her the chance to monetize her pain. Would you sacrifice pride for partnership? Does accepting help make you weak or wise? Your answer reveals volumes about how you value yourself. The offer is extremely generous, Maya said, buying time. I'd like to consider it overnight. Of course. Barbara stood, extending her hand. We're hosting a small dinner at the Detroit Club this evening. Several potential clients who are quite eager to meet you. 7 o'clock. Maya shook hands around the table. Promises to attend the dinner following her out the door. In the elevator, she exhaled slowly, the weight of the opportunity settling on her shoulders. Financial independence, professional respect, a clean slate. So why did it feel like another gilded cage? Outside, Detroit's downtown hummed with energy, so different from the bankrupt ghost town she'd left years ago. Construction cranes dotted the skyline. New businesses filled once abandoned buildings. The city was reinventing itself after collapse. Maybe people could do the same. Maya's phone rang as she walked toward her hotel. "Daniel, how did it go?" he asked when she answered. "Full partnership track. Ridiculous salary. All the trappings. Congratulations." His voice held genuine warmth. "You deserve it." Maya paused on a street corner, watching people rush past. "They want me to become a professional crisis manager for the wealthy, to capitalize on our very public bankruptcy." Daniel was quiet for a moment. "Are you comfortable with that?" The question surprised her. Thoughtful, centered on her feelings rather than practicalities. Another glimpse of the man emerging from the wreckage of their former life. "I don't know," she admitted. "It feels parasitic somehow." "Then don't take it," Daniel said simply. "You have options, Maya. More than you might realize." "Do I?" She resumed walking. Phone pressed her ear. "Our house is being sold. Your business is in bankruptcy. What exactly are my options if I don't take this job?" "We receive an offer today," Daniel said, voice shifting to something more cautious. "Not for the house. For us." Maya stopped walking again. "What kind of offer?" "Jordan Reynolds came to see me." The bottom dropped out of Maya's stomach. "Jordan? What?" "His firm wants to hire me as a financial consultant for their new community development project." Daniel's tone remained carefully neutral. Apparently, investors who lose everything have valuable insights to offer. Maya's mind raced. Jordan had approached Daniel with a job after their texts, after whatever unspoken possibility had flickered between them. "What did you tell him?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "That I discuss it with my wife." The simple response hung between them. "It's a legitimate offer, Maya. Modest salary, but solid. And it would let us start over without leaving Charleston. If that's what you want. If that's what you want. Not what we want." The distinction wasn't lost on Maya. "I'm having dinner with the firm tonight," she said finally. "Let me think about all of this." "Of course." "And Maya?" Jordan also mentioned their architects are designing affordable housing units for the project, so they could use someone with your eye for creating spaces that feel like home. The information landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading outward. A job for Daniel, a creative role for her, both within the same project. A way forward that didn't require choosing between her marriage and her independence. Had Jordan engineered this solution? And if so, why? "I should go," Maya said, mind still processing. "I'll call you after the dinner." Back in her hotel room, Maya stared at her phone, thumb hovering over Jordan's name. To thank him? To question his motives? To understand why he'd approached Daniel instead of her? Before she could decide, a text from her mother appeared. "Doctor called. Results back. Can you come by before your dinner?" Maya stared at the screen, a cold knot forming in her stomach. Her mother's routine checkup, the one she'd insisted wasn't anything to worry about. Their empire was built on paper, but so was their marriage. Everything was dissolving in the rain, leaving only the truth of what remained between them. What cost more, pride or regret? Have you ever had to choose between a clean break and a messy rebuilding? Share which path you chose and whether you'd make the same choice again. Stage 2 breast cancer. The words hung in Maya's mother's small living room, solid as furniture. "They caught it early, but I'll need surgery. Then chemo." Maya sat beside her mother on the worn sofa, hands clasped tightly together. "How long have you known something was wrong?" "A few months." Her mother's smile was apologetic. "I didn't want to worry you with everything happening in Charleston." A few months. While Maya had been drowning in her marital problems, her mother had been facing mortality alone. "I'm moving back," Maya said immediately. "I'll take the firm's offer. Be here through your treatment." Her mother's hand covered hers, surprisingly strong. "No, Mom. Listen to me, Maya." Her mother sat straighter, the fierce woman who'd raised a daughter alone reasserting herself. "I have good insurance. Friends to drive me to appointments. Church members bringing meals. What I don't need is my daughter giving up her life out of guilt." "It's not guilt," Maya protested. "It's love. Love doesn't require sacrifice, baby girl." It requires wisdom. Her mother's eyes, so like Maya's own, held firm. Those fancy lawyers aren't offering you a job because they care about you. They're offering because they can use your pain to make money. The assessment was eerily accurate. And Daniel, Maya asked quietly, what about him? Her mother considered this. Has he changed? I think so. Maybe. Maya struggled to articulate the shifts she'd witnessed. He's more honest now. Vulnerable. The bankruptcy stripped away his armor. Men often find their hearts when they lose their wallets. Her mother's tone held no judgment, only observation. The question is whether that change sticks once the crisis passes. Is desire that awakens from jealousy real or just possession? Can you truly want something before you've almost lost it? Psychology says we only value what we fear losing. Do you agree? Maya's phone buzzed, a reminder for the firm dinner. She silenced it without looking. What about the neighbor? Her mother asked, surprising her. The one who texts about roses. Heat rushed to Maya's face. Jordan? He's just a friend. Her mother's knowing look said everything. A friend who makes you blush like a teenager. He offered Daniel a job, Maya admitted, and mentioned a possible position for me too. Both working on the same community development project. Interesting. Her mother studied her face. A man who sees solutions instead of problems. That's rare. Maya stood, pacing the small room. It's complicated, Mom. Jordan and I, there's something there. Something I can't or shouldn't explore while Daniel and I are still figuring things out. Life is always complicated, baby girl. That's how you know you're still living it. Her mother's voice softened. Whatever you decide about Charleston or Detroit, make sure it's because you're moving towards something, not running away. Maya kissed her mother's forehead, promising to return after her dinner. In the taxi downtown, she texted Barbara Hannigan, apologizing for missing the event due to a family emergency. Then she texted Daniel, Mom has cancer. Stage 2. Processing. Talk tomorrow. His response came immediately. I'm so sorry, Maya. Whatever you need, I'm here. No pressure, just support. The simple message, offering presence without demands, touched something deep inside her. The old Daniel would have immediately suggested specialists, second opinions, solutions. This Daniel simply offered himself. At her hotel, Maya canceled her return flight to Charleston, booking an open-ended ticket instead. Her mother needed her, at least until they had a treatment plan. The firm could wait. Daniel could wait. As she changed out of her business attire into jeans and a soft sweater, her phone rang. Jordan. Maya stared at the screen, debating whether to answer. What would she say? How could she explain the confused tangle of feelings his name on her screen evoked? She answered anyway. Hello. Maya. His voice sounded relieved. I wasn't sure you'd pick up. Why wouldn't I? A pause. Daniel mentioned you're considering the Detroit offer. I thought maybe you decided to make a clean break from Charleston. From everything. The implication hung between them. From everyone. I haven't decided anything, Maya said truthfully. My mother just told me she has cancer. That's taking precedence right now. I'm so sorry. The genuine concern in his voice made her throat tighten. Is there anything I can do? You already did something. Maya sat on the edge of the hotel bed. You offered Daniel a job. What? Jordan was quiet for a moment. Because he's talented. Because the project needs his financial expertise. Especially someone who understands how investments can fail. That's the professional answer, Maya said. What's the real one? Another pause, longer this time. Because I care about you, Maya. Because I see how torn you are between moving forward and honoring your history with him. The honesty took her breath away. Jordan, let me finish, he said gently. What's between us, whatever it is, started while you were vulnerable. While your marriage was in crisis. That's not a foundation I want to build on. Even if you were free to choose. Maya closed her eyes, his words simultaneously painful and perfect. So the job offers are legitimate for both of you. No strings, no expectations. Jordan's voice softened. If you and Daniel find your way back to each other, I'll be happy for you. If you don't, and someday you're ready to explore whatever this is between us, I'll be here, but it has to be clean. Clear. No traingas. Tears pricked behind Maya's eyelids. Not of sadness, but recognition. This was what respect looked like. People could change. Sometimes it took losing everything to find what mattered. She typed back, "I'd like you to come. We can face this together." Together. The word felt different now. Not an obligation or a habit, but a choice. One she was making with open eyes. Breathless, Maya pulled away, the taste of him still on her lips. "I need to know if you want me or just don't want him to have me." When someone reveals their true character in a crisis, do you believe the revelation or dismiss it as temporary? Has adversity ever shown you who someone really is? Share your experience below. 3 months after her mother's diagnosis, Maya stood in the empty foyer of what had once been the Whitmore mansion. Sunlight streamed through windows stripped of their custom draperies, casting geometric patterns on floors now bare of Persian rugs. The house had been sold, not to an investor or corporation, but to a tech entrepreneur from California who'd paid cash, no contingencies. The final walkthrough complete, Maya had asked for 10 minutes alone to say goodbye, to 15 years of memories, to the woman she'd been within these walls. Her phone vibrated in her pocket, a text from Daniel, all done at the attorney's office. Final papers signed, officially free and clear. "How's the house?" Maya typed back, "Empty, beautiful, someone else's." These past months had brought change at dizzying speed. Her mother's first surgery, successful. Chemo treatments begun with Maya by her side for each one. Daniel joining them in Detroit, staying first at a hotel, then moving into Maya's small apartment near her mother's home. The bankruptcy finalized, their debts restructured, their assets liquidated. And through it all, they talked, really talked, in ways they never had during 15 years of marriage. About why Maya had given up her career so easily. About Daniel's fear of failure that had driven him to greater and greater risks. About what they wanted for whatever life remained ahead. The guest house door creaked open on the other side of the property, pulling Maya from her thoughts. Jordan emerged, dressed casually in jeans and a dark blue button-down. He'd been checking the roses one last time. His parting gift to the new owners, instructions on their care. They'd maintained a careful distance these months, Jordan respecting the boundaries he himself had drawn. Professional texts about the community development project, now moving forward with Daniel's guidance. Occasional updates on mutual acquaintances in Charleston. Nothing more, but seeing him now, standing in the sunlight where she'd first met him across the garden fence, Maya felt that same flutter of recognition. A possibility. Would you choose comfortable certainty or risk everything for a relationship that might still fail? What's worth more, security or passion? Many of us face this question. Share your choice. "They're in good hands," Jordan said, approaching but stopping several feet away. "I wrote detailed care instructions for the new owner's gardener." "Thank you." Maya gestured to the house behind her. "It's strange saying goodbye. Are you sad to leave it?" Maya considered this. Not the house itself, just certain moments that happen here. Jordan nodded, understanding in his eyes. "The memories go with you, you know. The good ones, I hope." She smiled slightly. The others can stay buried in the garden. They stood in comfortable silence, the distance between them charged yet respectful. So much unspoken, yet perfectly understood. "When do you head back to Detroit?" Jordan asked finally. "Tomorrow morning. Mom's next treatment is Thursday." Maya tucked her hands into her pockets. "Daniel's already there, getting our new place ready." Something flickered across Jordan's expression at the mention of Daniel. "The apartment near the river? The one you mentioned?" "No, actually, we found a small house in my old neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it has good bones. Room to grow. That sounds perfect." Jordan's smile reached his eyes, genuine despite whatever complicated emotions might lie beneath. "You deserve a home that feels like you." The simple observation, so characteristic of how he'd always seen her, made Maya's heart squeeze. In another life, another timeline, the development project breaks ground next month, Jordan said, changing the subject. "Daniel's financial modeling has been invaluable. The investors are impressed." He mentioned that. Maya smiled. "He's excited to see it become real." to build something that helps people instead of just making money. And you? Jordan's eyes held hers. Will you be joining the design team, as we discussed? The question hung between them, professional on the surface, layered underneath. Would she be coming back to Charleston, even temporarily? I'm focusing on Mom right now, Maya answered honestly. But I've been reviewing the plans from Detroit. Your affordable housing concepts are beautiful. They'd be better with your input. Maybe someday. Maya glanced at her watch. I should go. The real estate agent needs the keys. Jordan nodded, stepping back. Of course. As Maya turned toward her rental car, Jordan called after her. Maya, I'm glad, about you and Daniel, that you found your way back to each other. She turned, studying his face, the genuine care there, the respect, the slight sadness beneath. We're figuring it out, day by day. Nothing's certain except that we're trying. That's all any of us can do. Jordan's smile was soft. Try and hope. The weight of what might have been hung between them, a road not taken, a possibility unvisited. Not regret exactly, but acknowledgement. Thank you, Maya said simply, for seeing me when I felt invisible. I won't forget that. Jordan nodded once, dignity intact. Safe travels, Maya Whitmore. The drive to the airport felt like passing through different lives. The grand homes of Charleston's elite giving way to middle-class neighborhoods, then industrial areas. Finally, the airport with its promise of transition. Maya checked her bag, moved through security, and found her gate with time to spare. As she waited, she scrolled through photos on her phone. Her mother smiling despite her hair loss. Daniel cooking in their tiny Detroit kitchen. The small house they bought together with what remained of their savings. A text appeared from Daniel. Just finished painting the bedroom. That green color you liked. Can't wait for you to see it. Attached was a photo of a modest room bathed in soft green. Afternoon light filtering through simple curtains. On the wall hung a familiar painting. The woman at the window, looking out at the storm. The only piece of art Maya had kept from their former life. She stared at the image, this tangible proof that Daniel had been listening, had noticed what mattered to her. The painting she'd chosen herself, now given pride of place in their new beginning. Another text followed. I found something in a box today. Those letters you wrote that I never opened. Would it be okay if I read them now? Only if you want me to. Maya's throat tightened. The letters. Her heart poured onto pages during those 9 dark months. Words of loneliness, confusion, anger, and beneath it all, love. She typed back, yes, read them. I meant every word. As boarding began, Maya took one last look at the photo of their new bedroom, so different from the palatial master suite they'd left behind. Smaller, simpler, more honest. The auctioneer's gavel fell, declaring the end of everything they had built. Maya's phone buzzed with Detroit's final offer as Daniel reached for her hand. 2 futures waiting for her choice. When everything you built has been stripped away, what remains tells you what truly mattered all along. What would be left in your life if everything external disappeared? Share your essential truth below. 6 months later, Maya knelt in the small garden behind their Detroit home, hands deep in soil warmed by early summer sun. Around her, the neighborhood hummed with weekend life, children's laughter, lawn mowers, music drifting from open windows. The roses are taking well, Daniel observed, appearing at the back door with 2 glasses of iced tea. Jordan's advice worked. Maya accepted the glass he offered, sitting back on her heels to survey her work. The Charleston Blues were indeed thriving in their new Detroit soil, their color vibrant against the modest wooden fence. He knows his plants, she agreed, sipping the cold tea gratefully. Daniel settled on the steps beside her, close enough to touch though he didn't. That was their new way. Proximity without presumption, presence without pressure. Your mother's scans looked good yesterday, he said. The oncologist seemed pleased. Yes. Maya smiled, relief still fresh. One more round of treatment, then hopefully done. They sat in comfortable silence, watching bees drift between blooms. So different from their Charleston garden with its manicured perfection and staff of professionals. This space they tended themselves, learning through trial and error, adapting to Michigan's changing seasons. Like their marriage, imperfect, evolving, requiring constant attention. The project photos came today, Daniel said eventually. From Charleston, the community center is framed. They're starting on the housing units next month. Maya nodded. Jordan mentioned that in his email. Said they incorporated some of my design suggestions for the common spaces. Daniel's hand found hers, fingers intertwining naturally. You could still join them, you know, for the next phase. Your mother's doing better. I could manage here. The offer was genuine, another sign of how much had changed between them. The old Daniel would never have suggested temporary separation. The old Daniel needed control, possession. Maybe, Maya said, squeezing his hand. But I'm not ready to leave this yet. She gestured around them. The garden, the house, the life they were building piece by piece. I'm glad. Daniel's voice dropped softer. I like who we are here. Maya studied his face, lined now with experiences that had humbled and humanized him. Not the smooth, confident mask he'd worn in Charleston, but something more real, more flawed, more beautiful. Me too, she admitted. Later, as evening painted the sky in lavender and gold, they lay together in their bedroom, the green walls darkening with dusk. Daniel's arms wrapped around her from behind, his breath warm against her neck. Their bodies fit together like they always had, but with a new gentleness, a hard-won appreciation. I never answered your question, Daniel murmured against her skin. That night at the guest house, when you asked if I'd failed at business or as a husband, Maya turned in his arms, facing him in the fading light. And both, he said quietly. But the business failure taught me how to fix the husband part, how to see what actually matters. She traced his face with gentle fingers, mapping the man who had emerged from the wreckage of their former life. Not perfect, not fixed, but trying every day to be better. The life inside her was chosen, not bargained. If you felt that, prove it. Stay for what comes next. Does real love require losing everything to discover what remains? What part of yourself would you fight to keep in your next relationship? Share your non-negotiable in the comments below.